people have seen forum research results on an ongoing basis. So you've prepared a bit of a graphic for us, and Michael, maybe we can get that on the screen, and we can talk a little bit about what's been going on here since the beginning of the year. So I'd ask you to just take a moment. This is your work, and so it begins with the first poll of the year, and while there's some up and down, the blue line is consistently the highest. So maybe walk our viewers through what happened since January until now.
So we have this graph. It does have the provincial polling trend since the beginning of 2018. And what I like to think of it as really showing the logic of polling, because we have superimposed on the numbers of events that were going on just after we did the poll. And we do this so we can actually look at the effect of events on public opinion. So rather than doing the poll on the same day every month, it will vary depending on what's been going on, because we want to catch the latest impact on public opinion. So let's just have a look at the numbers. We had the Tories going into this year in the approximately 40% range, 40 or 42%. And that's important because to get a majority, you have to be approximately at 40 or 40, just above 40%. So it's critical. It's one thing to lose a point or two, and it will affect you in some way in terms of number of seats, but you go below 40, and you're likely to end up with a minority government, even if you're winning the election. So we started the election with, we started the year at 40% for the Tories. We then had Patrick Brown's resignation, which had almost no impact on Tory support. So it kind of indicated that people didn't really care who the Tory leader was. They were going to vote Tory no matter who the leader was, and that Patrick Brown wasn't per se much of a draw for the party. The next poll we did was in February at the height of the Tory leadership campaign. That was sort of the peak for the Tories. They got up to about 49% of the vote, very, very high. That's a super majority, and that's a reflection of the profile of the candidates who are running, and the candidates who ran were very popular. So we had Doug Ford, well known. We had Christine Elliott, well known, well liked, and so forth, and Carolyn Mulroney. It was a good race, didn't get too nasty, and it gave the Tories quite a boost and depressed the votes of the other two parties. That was sort of the high point. Then, of course, we had the strange ending to the leadership race, that convention in March. Ford wins, and we did see a decline in their numbers, in the Tory numbers. So this is some people who were hoping that Christine Elliott would be the leader, or maybe Carolyn Mulroney would be leader, being a bit disappointed. Tory vote went down with Doug Ford. Plus also I think a reflection of some baggage that Doug Ford probably brings to things from his previous career as a councillor in the city of Toronto. Then in further on in March, we had the Liberal budget. You can see the bounce, the lift for the red Liberal numbers. We had them before that in third place behind the NDP. This pushed them ahead of the NDP. It narrowed the gap to the narrowest gap we've seen, I would say, in 3 years between the Tories and the Liberals.
So there was a bit of a budget bounce for the Liberals.
I think a good bounce. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good bounce. So the key thing for the Liberals was to continue that trend. Of course, then we had the Livingston verdict and going to jail and all that, and we also had the NDP platform come out, and the impact on the Liberals in terms of their decline.
Okay, now I'm just curious on the Livingston verdict coincided with because it was very recent with that period of time, but does need to ask you, is this something that people are raising as you're conducting your research, as I'm not voting Liberal because of that, or do you believe that the timing of that dip coincides with that verdict?
Well, we don't know for sure, but we know that the poll was done after the verdict, so it has to factor into it somehow. And unless something else is going on, that's the most likely, I'll say, culprit in terms of the Liberal dip.
Okay, fair enough. So you did this poll in a week when lots happened, including the release of the NDP platform. And for those of you watching, we will be talking to Catherine Fife, NDP MPP, after Lorne about that. So you were in the field while this was going on, and some of the key themes that were included in that NDP platform, you did some work on that too to see how people reacted to it. So most notably, high-income earners, new personal income tax, converting student loans to grants, charging people an extra 3% sales tax on any vehicle worth over $90,000, and childcare, which is either free or $12 a day per child, depending on people's income levels. And what did you find? How are people receiving those messages?
Also fairly popular. So tax on the wealthy, because that's of course a tax on the minority, tends to be, those type of taxes tend to be very popular among the public because they're a tax on somebody else. So they had a 50% approval rating, that's pretty good, 34% disapprove. The student loan forgiving, 47%, again a fairly high number, 38% disapprove. The vehicle surcharge also, you know, there's not a lot of people buying cars in that price range, so a tax on that is also fairly popular at 43%. And then finally, the child care, the free or $12 a day child care, 41% approval, 38% disapproval. But when you look at those numbers, so the approval numbers are all higher than the disapproval, but the approval numbers are shared among both the Liberal and the New Democrat supporters. But people who tend to vote for those two parties will like that. The disapproval is centered around the Tories. So sort of Doug Ford gets the benefit of the disapproval, but the approval has to be split between Andrew Horwath, I think, and also the Liberals.
Right, and we've seen without so the PC party has not launched its platform yet, but we've certainly seen Doug Ford talk about things like a 1% decrease in the corporate income tax rate, where we have the NDP saying they'll actually increase taxes on corporations and on individuals earning over $220,000 a year. So there seems, and I don't think the Liberals, well, they haven't released their platform either, but in their last budget, I don't believe that they increased either personal income taxes and recently lowered the corporate income tax for small business as a bit of a trade-off for the minimum wage increases. So you're finding then that for those people that disapprove of tax increases, generally it benefits Ford and the PCs, even though the Liberals haven't said that they would increase taxes. So not a lot of good news in that either for the